Okay, I'm going to start with a brief history. I became a Christian in 1965, so that's 60 years for me this year as a Christian. I came to know the Lord through the Anglican Pathfinders, and the local curate at the church was a bit of a Greek scholar. And I was doing classics at school, Latin, Greek, and ancient history. So when I was 16, every Sunday afternoon for an hour, we would translate the New Testament from Greek into, well, teenagers' English. Then I went up to Oxford in '68 and studied classics, and it was my childhood ambition to be a barrister. I could just see myself as a latter-day Perry Mason. But the Lord didn't see me as that, and he guided me to study languages instead. And in the syllabus book of that year, it said, for the first time, we are able to offer Turkish as a main language, and it just clicked. And I changed to study Turkish. I was the top student in my faculty. There was one person in it, that was me. I used to love that joke with the new students who came up. I could be a big head and but let myself down, brick my bubble. So I graduated in Turkish with Arabic, but it was mainly Turkish, and went out to Turkey in 1972. And pretty soon I saw that the existing, I've got an ad come up for some reason. Pretty soon saw that, it's gone. The existing Bible was very old. The Turkish Bible was first translated in 1665 by the Sultan's translator, and it was revised several times in the 19th century by missionaries, and the final time it was revised was 1941. But despite that, it was still too old. The language was too old for most people to understand. I used to, as a 20-year-old newcomer to Turkey, I constantly said, we don't have a proper Bible translation. But, you know, young whippersnapper, okay, yeah, you made your point, yeah. No, but eventually, maybe through persistence, in 1979, we got a new translation started. And I was asked to be the main exegete for that translation. Exegete means the man who does the exegesis, or the interpretation of the original language, which in this case was Greek. But it wasn't the first translation that I worked on that was published. That was Azerbaijani. And I'm going to see if I can get... Do I just press the right-hand button? Do I do it at you? At you? Oh, there it is. There it is. This is a map of the Turkic world, which is enormous. It stretches from the Yakuts, who live up here in northern Siberia, where the temperature can go down to -70. Makes your freezer seem pretty tropical. To the Uyghurs in the east of, well, actually the west of China. They live in the west of China, suffering terribly at the moment at the hands of the Chinese. Then down south in Iran, there are the Kashgai, and of course the Turks of Turkey, and the Gagauz live in Moldova. So this is enormous, absolutely enormous area, and all these languages are related to Turkish. Turkish is the biggest in the family, but they're all connected. To give you an analogy, Italian, French, Spanish and Portuguese are all in the Romance family. They're separate languages, but there's definite family likeness in all of them. It's the same with the Turkic languages. And my first one that was published was Azerbaijani, and that is here. I don't know if you can see it in this light. Can you see it, Azerbaijan? Just about. 1982. That came out. And that's much better, thank you. Meanwhile, I was still working on in the committee on the Turkish New Testament, and that came out in 1986. And at this time, we decided as a family that if I was going to be a full-time Bible translator, that it would make more sense to move back to England. So we did in 1987. And soon after that, I started work on the Balkar New Testament. This was an amazing thing. I actually got a copy of it way back in the late 70s, but I was up to my eyeballs with Azerbaijani and Turkish. But this translation of Balkar, it was hand done in copper plate writing, hand bound. And this was in communist times. The translator had entrusted that someone to take it out of communist Russia and bring it to the West and hopefully somehow get it published. And it brought tears to my eyes when I saw it, this lovely hand. But I couldn't do it. I didn't have the time. But when we moved back to England, I did have the time. And so I started work on it. If you'd like to look at your things, the Balkar, I will tell you a little bit about them. They're a small people. They live here up in the Caucasus Mountains. If you consider this Europe, they've got the highest mountain in Europe, Mount Elbrus. That's for your quizzes. Fantastically beautiful. It's like a pristine Switzerland. Absolutely fabulous. And they live there in the Caucasus Mountains, far south of Russia, with the border of Georgia. And their language is related to Turkish. And it's actually unique in that it's the only Turkic group in this area that has a church and a pastor in Nalchik, Pastor Ali. Oh, if I can... I'll come back to the map again later, but let's see Pastor Ali. That's the original translator, Ibrahim. He went to be with the Lord a few years ago. And the bearded wonder next to him is me, believe it or not. Somebody said I look older in that picture than I do now, but this was that was 1991. Me with the Balkar translator, and this is me working with the Balkar pastor, Pastor Ali. Amazing guy. He spent quite a long time in prison for armed robbery. He was a gangster, but someone witnessed to him in prison, and he became a believer. And he now leads the Balkar Church, and he's also now helping with the... Oh, am I not audible? Oh, yeah, he's helping with the Balkar Old Testament now. Okay, so... Okay. Yeah, I've got a trip coming up in July to meet with Arlim. I don't know why we're doing it in Georgia, but we're going to do it in Georgia, some of the Old Testament. Meanwhile, the whole Turkish Bible came out in 2001, and the launch coincided with 9/11, would you believe? But pretty soon, Ali, whom I work with on the Old Testament, and we're going to get back. Here's me and Ali working on the Old Testament. Very soon afterwards, Ali said, you know, this is not connecting with people, this translation. We had assumed that the population would be mainly non-religious. Turkey is a very divided society between religious Muslims and non-religious Muslims. A bit like, you know, C of E in this country, and people that actually go to a church on Sunday. Turkey was like that. And in the 70s, about 70% were non-religious Muslims and 30% were religious Muslims. But in the meantime, since 1970, those percentages have reversed. So it's now 30% non-religious and 70% who are religious. And our translation that came out in 2001 was aimed at the non-religious. This was a problem because it offended the religious section. They didn't like the vocabulary we used. In fact, one very religious Muslim said, this translation must have been done by out-and-out infidels because the language was so not proper religious language. So we decided, me and Ali decided in 2006 to do what we call the Turkish easy to read translation. And we finished the New Testament, we published in 2011, but we still haven't published the whole Bible. We hope it will come out this year. Please pray. That's me and Ali working together. In 2011, I had the joy of seeing the Nogai New Testament come out. The Nogais, like the Balkars, live in the Caucasus region. Actually, more that side of the Balkars than that side, but I didn't have any room. They're all together more or less in the same place, the Karachais, the Balkars, and the Nogais. Karachais and Balkars, practically the same language, like American English and British English. So you can do, if you translate it into Balkar, you can do an addition for the Karachais. So 2011, we did the Nogai New Testament, and the Old Testament is ongoing. And much easier than it used to be. I mean, I used to have to pack up about 20 kilos of books and go to the back end of nowhere in the Caucasus and work with the translator. Don't have to do that now. Zoom. I can stay in my bedroom, they can stay in their bedroom, and we can decide the whole translation on Zoom and the internet. It's fantastic. What a tremendous tool that is. Now, okay, so that's Nogai. Meanwhile, in 2023, I was asked to be the consultant for a third Turkish translation. You're going to get very confused, but if you look at that thing on there, it should make it clear. I was asked to be the consultant for the basic Turkish translation. That's for Turks outside Turkey. There's about 10 million of them in Bulgaria, Germany, and other places in Europe. Altogether, about 10 million Turks outside Turkey. And most of them have not been educated in their language. They've been educated in Bulgarian or in German or wherever they've been living, but not educated in their language. So their language becomes very poor. Not just ungrammatical, but it lacks lots of words. So we're making a translation for those Turks, which is very simple, short sentences, and not using any fancy highfalutin words at all. Really, really basic Turkish. And it's going really well. In 2024, the New Testament was published, and it's been well received. And then I was asked to be the consultant for the Old Testament, and I've been working with Rod, whom I'll show in a minute. There he is. Rod's even older than me. He's 80 years old, but fantastic Turkish. And we have two ladies, Turkish ladies, who are incredibly good at helping with this translation. And we're making tremendous progress. We hope that the whole Bible will be done by 2027, which is, I could tell you, it's like a world record. Bible translations usually take decades rather than than years. But Lord willing, if we make similar progress to what we're making now, we're looking at 2027. So pray for that will really come about.